Welcome back to the channel. You're with William B. Strong. You can call me Will here on My State of Affairs. Well, at the time of this broadcast, it's now Sunday evening, August the 22nd. I listened to the White House briefing today given by President Biden. And that was at 16:25 hours. For you civilians, that's 4:25 hours in the PM. He came on, he spoke about two issues. One was the hurricane currently hitting New York and the Northeast. Nothing significant there except a lot of expected rainfall, which could cause a lot of flooding. Apparently there was a lot of damage, death in Tennessee from flooding. And then he moved on to the number one topic in the country, and obviously likely one of the biggest topics in the world, and that is Afghanistan. Biden said that in the last 30 hours of the evacuation from Kabul, 11,000 people have been airlifted out of the airport en route to a variety of countries. And still, the number one priority remains the pickup, delivery, and airlift of U.S. citizens out of Afghanistan. And I agree with that. I mean, that has to be the number one priority. Safety and security of all Americans who want to leave, obviously. He keeps saying who want to leave. President Biden keeps referring to those who want to leave. Well, I can't imagine who would not want to leave, but I'm sure there are some nutcases running around and want to stay. Maybe they're radicalized and they want to stay with the Taliban. So good luck to them. Our recovery efforts have now moved beyond the wire of the airport. A couple of days ago in one of the briefings, both the Pentagon and Biden even said it, is that we had to go outside the perimeter to bring in 169 American citizens to the airport. Well, going out from the airport meant they actually took aircraft, Chinook helicopters, I think there were 3 of them, and went out to a remote location, unknown, not sure how far away it was, and obviously it was coordinated with these Americans to meet at a specific location where they would be picked up and brought in. A lot safer than trying to make their way by themselves to the airport. So I agree totally with whatever means of pickup and recovery we need to do. And that was going to take place anyways. And I think the government needs to make sure they don't announce too many of those plans, what's in use, how it's being done, and we'll get all those details at the end of the evacuation period. We don't need to know all the details. What we need to know is, are we getting Americans safely out of there? They're also helping our allies, allies being the French, the British, the Australians, the Germans, any other governments that were NATO allies of ours in Afghanistan. If they need help in procuring, getting their citizens out, then Biden said we're there to help. Totally agree with that as part of this plan moving forward. Also, he said that he's not forgetting our Afghan allies. Now, our Afghan allies are, 1, the interpreters, 2, other parties that were associated with the Americans. We have to remember, we were there since 2001, 20-year period of time that we employed many Afghan citizens. And now these citizens are under a degree of threat. They could be possibly singled out and executed by the Taliban if they so desire. So it's important that they also remain a priority. They may be a third level priority, but we have an obligation. Most veterans, okay, including myself, who have worked with interpreters in an overseas environment, understand the important role that they make for any operation that we're conducting. And it's very important that we make sure that they're taken care of, them and their families. They put it all on the line, and they were told, they didn't make this up, they were told they would be taken care of. Okay, so that's important to know. Now, in that regard, this arbitrary date of 31 August that has been set by President Biden as the end date of the evacuation is absurd. There's no reason that August the 31 needs to be the last day. I'm unaware of any agreement, including the agreement that Trump put together with the Taliban, that 31 August was some date set in stone. There was a crack in that stone today. Biden indicated that there's the possibility, and he hinted at that if we have to erase that date and put a new one on the board, we will. If that means we have to stay there to get every American out of there, every ally that we need to get out of there. He did not specifically mention that he would extend that deadline to get Afghan nationals out of there that were allied with us. So that's something we're going to keep an eye on. But clearly we see that this date could go into September now. And I predict it probably will. It probably will. Even though the latest report I heard about an hour ago, the flights have increased, the evacuation has, the numbers have increased, and so that's a good sign. That's a good sign that something positive has happened. And let's make sure we understand something now, that the Taliban is still in communication with U.S. forces. They are still cooperating to some degree with U.S. forces in getting Americans out. Now, when it comes to foreign nationals, when it comes to Afghan nationals, that could be a totally different story. Now, the threat of ISIS has crept in. The threat of Al-Qaeda has come in regards to a possible problem at the airport. So that's why I think the plans are underway to have different staging areas, and that's being communicated electronically to all U.S. citizens, okay? And let's just hope that those things remain secret and we can get everybody out safely. Now, let me see what else my notes have here. There was also indications that we're pushing the perimeter of the airport out. That means our troops that are there, the 82nd Airborne and others, were starting to creep that perimeter out some to give us a more secure setting. I think that's probably a good plan, and I'd imagine that's been coordinated with the Taliban, and they're cooperating with this at this point. Obviously, President Biden and his staff, they're trying to change the narrative. They're trying to change the narrative from basically, we screwed this thing up on the evacuation, to a narrative, we're all working hard. I want to praise everybody that's working on this operation to get everybody out and to save lives. So he's trying to switch the narrative now, that there'll be plenty of blame to go around later, but right now, our whole mission is to save lives. And I agree with that. I agree with that. But he keeps dodging the question that this plan was poorly put together. There maybe was no plan because they never thought the Taliban would take over the country in 1 week. So he's trying to distance himself from this being a failed plan or no planning and poor execution to we're basically working hard. We'll monitor that. But he needs to take full accountability for this. And he keeps saying the buck stops with him, but he keeps pointing the finger in different directions. There were he actually took a few questions. Biden took a few questions, which is very unusual. He always has a list in front of him, and on that list he calls out certain names. I thought the questions were good. I thought they were, I didn't think they were softball questions. I thought they were fair questions. And he had a little trouble answering them. And one of them was about failed execution of a plan of withdrawal, of evacuation, of shutting down the country. And he dodged that question. He talked around that question. It was quite clear. And that's pretty much what went down in the presidential briefing this afternoon. I just want to say that it's a very tense situation. It changes every day, and I'm going to try to keep an eye on it and just bring you the few highlights that come out of there. But let's keep our thoughts and prayers with everybody in Afghanistan, and most importantly, our troops that are there on the ground trying to protect and bring out Americans safely, and hopefully we can get as many people out as possible in that regard. I have one other thought too. The national news the other night when I was watching it, I think it was CBS. I can't remember to be honest with you, but near the tail end of their 30-minute program, they had a piece on Brittney Spears. That Brittney Spears has been involved in a potential domestic assault. You know what? I'm sick and tired of hearing about Brittney Spears. How does she even make 30 minutes of national news with everything that's going on in the world? It's ridiculous to even think we care about what happens to Brittney Spears and her father and who's handling her money and her situation. You know what? If that's all you care about is the housewives of New Jersey and Brittney Spears, you don't need to be on this channel. This is probably not for you, and you're not here anyways. So I had to put that out. It's been on my mind, and I think it's ridiculous that the national news would even bring that up. Okay, from here, from the state of affairs, this is Will Be Strong, and I'll see you next time around. You all have a nice evening out there, or good morning, depending when you're watching this. Bye for now.